Guys, can you believe this? It is -12 right now here in Chicago with a low of -20. So I am not going to leave the house today. So instead I thought I would film a video for you guys showing you my favorites from this month in terms of tarot decks, oracle decks, and books. And this was a fun month. I went through kind of a lot of different decks and had the chance to review and discuss a lot of really fun new tarot and oracle decks coming out recently. So I wanted to start with my favorite tarot deck for this month, and that would be the Neon Moon Tarot deck. And I actually did a whole video review of this deck, so I will link that down in the description box below. This deck is really unique. It definitely has a sci-fi dystopia kind of Blade Runner thing going on in terms of its aesthetics. And what I like about it is there's really this kind of whole world that's built around the characters in the deck. So it definitely wins points when it comes to originality, and it's been really fun to work with this deck a lot this month, and I really enjoyed the various kind of card imagery in this deck. So definitely check that out if that is something you might be interested in. I also got a lot of oracle decks sent to me this month from an Australian publishing company called Rockpool Publishers. So I will put their link down below in the description. They produce a whole lot of tarot decks, oracle decks, witchy books, and things like that. So if you are into that, definitely do check that out. And they sent me 3 different oracle decks. And the first one I wanted to show you is the Queen of the Moon Oracle. And of the 3 decks they sent, this is definitely my favorite. It comes with a beautiful book with color images, and the book is really important when it comes to an oracle deck, because with tarot you can just kind of learn the meanings and you can pretty much read most tarot decks, but with oracle decks they really are their own thing, so a lot of times you probably will need to refer to the book. So if you are looking at purchasing an oracle deck, it's always recommended to make sure they have a good book that's coming with it too. So this deck is largely based around the moon. So the cards each have their own aspect of the moon cycle that they are related around. And they each have a inspirational kind of word at the bottom too. Here in this example, it's growth. In this one, it's self-love. So the images here are very beautiful in my opinion. I think some of them are a bit cheesy if I'm honest, but that's a criticism I have for a lot of oracle decks, so it might just be me. And I do really like oracle decks when they're used as pulling a card of the day, so I've been doing that a bit with this deck, and I've really enjoyed that because you can start your morning off by pulling a card in the oracle deck and checking its meaning and just kind of seeing throughout your day how you can incorporate that message into your life. So this has been a pretty fun deck that I have been working with, especially for pulling a card of the day for this month. So I'll put the link for this one in the description box down below. The next one is the Crystal Medicine Oracle. And this is another great oracle deck that has a lovely thick book that comes with it, and the images are all kind of in color too, which is nice. And this one is kind of based around crystals, though it also has a lot of other stuff going on. So each image has 3 kind of items of information here. So for example, this one is, the title is Dance, and then it's usually associated with a stone or a crystal or a mineral. In this case, it's opal. So some of the images are really beautiful. I love this kind of more minimalist one right here that's called Moving Forward. So this is a fun deck to look through in terms of, again, using for a card of the day type reading. There are kind of other readings you could do with this deck, but that's what I would be using this deck for the most. So that is the Crystal Medicine Oracle, and I will link that down below. And the last Oracle deck that the publisher sent me is called the Saints and Mystics Reading Cards, and this is a bit of a more unusual Oracle deck, primarily because it's based around real people. Well, mostly real people. So here you have some of the cards connected to saints. So this deck would be really great if you are a Christian witch or someone who incorporates the saints into their spiritual practice. I do like how they even included Santa Muerte as one of the saints, because Santa Muerte is kind of an unofficial saint. It's not recognized by the church. And the book too is good if you want to know more information about the saint, how they achieved their sainthood, some of the things they're known for. If you're like me, you know, I don't have as much knowledge on the saints, so that's been interesting kind of looking through and learning more about the saints. They also have several cards that are not saints and who they call mystics, though they're using the term mystic very liberally here. For example, they're including Leonardo da Vinci. I don't know if you would consider him a mystic. Here they have Marie Laveau. Yeah, I think that one definitely does make sense, but there's kind of a wide variety of different individuals they're including in this category of mystics. Here they have Plato, the philosopher. So it is kind of a fun deck, and it's a neat concept to have cards based around the saints and the mystics. And it definitely is fun if you want to learn more about these individuals. So that is the last Oracle deck, though I do have another deck that I have been working with a lot lately, and that is the Living Wheel Astrology cards. And I wouldn't quite call this an Oracle deck. It's more, to me, a way to help you better understand and study astrology. Though I would say this is probably my favorite deck that I've used this month, and I think it's a great method, a great way to visually represent what's going on with the stars, with the planets. And the way they do that is the cards are divided into different aspects of astrology. For example, you have some cards that are connected with the 12 houses. So you also have cards connected with the planets. So let me find one of those. Here we go. So you have a card for each of the planets, as well as their planetary symbol. You also have cards that are the constellations of the zodiac signs. And you have a few cards that represent the different seasons. So what you can really do is look at what's going on in the astrological aspect and then visualize it. So for example, if you have Mars currently in the 3rd house, you could put these two cards together and put them on your altar as a way to kind of keep track of what is going on. And say it's also, say maybe it's the crescent moon. You could also find the crescent moon card and add it to that as well. So you can really kind of play around with these cards and have a good time visually representing what's going on in an astrological concept. Because a lot of times you can see, if you look at astrology, you might see this planet is squaring this other planet. And it's kind of fun to like actually visualize that on your table with the two planets to give a better understanding of what's really going on in the sky. So this has been a really fun deck to work with, and it's also visually very beautiful in my opinion. I love the backs of the cards. They're in this beautiful kind of gold wheel design. Most of the cards are in this gray black background here, and the insides are often kind of gold, very minimalist. So I really enjoy that kind of aesthetic, and this has been a really fun deck that I've been working with for this month. So I will link this deck in the description box down below, and again, this one is called the Living Wheel Astrology Cards. There's two books that I wanted to show you today as well. The first one being the book of herb spells that I got this month, and I will link this one down below. And this is a really fun book if you are a green witch or someone who is interested in herbalism. There's a lot of really fun spells in here that you can try out, and it's been really great for me to kind of learn more about herb lore as well. And honestly, I'm not great when it comes to keeping my own herbs. Most of them have died, unfortunately. I'd like to blame the fact that I live in a city apartment, though I'm sure it's in part my fault. So one of the goals I have is to get better at growing my own herbs, so this is a good motivation for me to keep going with that. The last book I wanted to share with you is one that I'm still currently reading, and it's more of a historical book. So this is called Song of the Vikings, and this is by Nancy Marie Brown. And this is a book about kind of the creation of what we know today as the Norse myths. So if you do study Norse mythology, or if you are into Asatru, you might be familiar with the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda. And those are two pieces of literature that basically create the foundation of what we know today as the Norse myths. And those pieces of literature were written in the Middle Ages by an Icelandic individual called, I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, but it's Snorri Sturluson. So what this book does is it traces Snorri Sturluson and him writing what we now view of as today the great myths of Norse mythology. So it's been interesting too, because a lot of it he did take from oral tradition from these stories, but he also kind of added some things from his own experiences and his own ideas too into what we now know of as the Norse myths. It's also been fascinating to see how much Tolkien took from the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda when he wrote Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. That's just been kind of neat too. And there was even a kind of like a club in Oxford when Tolkien was there, where they sat around discussing the Norse myths kind of in secret. It made me think of the Dead Poet Society a little bit, if you've ever seen that movie. But it's just been a really fun way to learn more about Norse mythology and the Norse myths, and it's getting me super excited for my upcoming trip to Scandinavia in May. So I wanted to share this one with you, and I'm not done with it yet, so maybe when I finish it I will give you a full book review. But I hope you all enjoyed this video where I went over some new tarot decks and oracle decks, and I will be including some of the decks in my next giveaway. So if there was a particular deck that you would really want to have, do please comment down below and I will definitely consider it for my next giveaway. I'll be doing my next giveaway in February. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you all next week. Bye!